Hello again. I am Chris Lee of Southeastern 16, joined by Graham Doty and Alfred Ezman. Our special guest today, Kerrick Jackson, head baseball coach at the University of Missouri. Kerrick, thank you for joining us today.
I appreciate you guys having me on.
Talk about the state of Missouri baseball. I know last year you guys didn't get to the tournament, which I'm sure is always a goal, but progress in certain directions. The pitching was really good at times. You had some near misses and series wins. Talk us about where you think you are as a program in terms of your progress to getting where you want to be, as we're about a week and a half from the 2025 season.
Yeah, I think as you kind of noted last year, we just came up short a little bit at times. We're in a lot of games. 14 of our losses were 2 runs or less. And that's, making a play here or there, making a pitch here or there. And that's against conference opponents. I talked to our team about it. You catch a routine fly ball and make a routine ground ball out against Kentucky and we sweep them, as opposed to taking 1 to 3. And LSU, you execute a pitch, you take 2 out of 3 from them. Georgia, you get a run across, you take 2 out of 3 from them. So we just came up short a little bit. And I think as we've transitioned into year 2, I think the guys that were here last year realize where we fell short and that was in our control. And so there's been an onus that they've taken with regards to, hey, let's be better. Let's play better baseball. And again, we don't have to worry about trying to match what the other team does. All we need to focus on is playing the best baseball we can play, and everything will take care of itself.
Overall, Coach, how do you feel the offseason has gone as you gear up for your second season in Columbia?
It's going well. We unfortunately the guy that we brought in to play shortstop for us, Gehrig Goldbeck, who was a Gold Glover type dude, and a guy that is all high offensive guy. He ends up he's gonna have to have Tommy John. So he'll be at a hit for us because he's a left-handed hitter and a right-handed thrower. But he won't be able to get on the field for us, specifically at short. Now, as we progress through the year, I think he's going to kind of do some throwing and see where things pan out to see if he can't, towards the latter part of the year, get in at second base or first base where the throws are minimal. But for the most part, we're healthy. Guys are doing the right thing. We have some young guys that have really, really stepped into the scene and done well. But just getting our guys to understand, again, more importantly than anything else, just play clean baseball. The game is a really simple game. We make it difficult. Like we make it harder than it is. And it's you throw it, you catch it, you have quality at bats, you play good defense, you play hard, you play smart, and it's really, really simple. But sometimes you can get caught up into the output of things.
Coach, I guess I'll follow that up. That news we just got. Do you have any ideas who would play short instead of Goldbeck thus far, about a week out from the season?
I was hoping you guys could tell me. No, we got some options. You got Peyton Basler, who we also brought in from the same junior college, who played second base there, and that's only because Gehrig was at short. But during the course of the year, they kind of switched off a little bit, playing short and second. Jackson Lovich, who is a junior for us, who came in as a shortstop out of high school, but primarily last year he played first base and moved into the outfield a little bit. He'll probably be our third baseman, but he has an opportunity to go and play short. And then we have a true freshman. His name is Trey Lawrence from Tampa, high baseball IQ guy, probably one of our better top, if you will, defending infielders, but he's a freshman. So we've experienced that a little bit here already, where the game just speeds up on them a little bit. But we do have some options of guys that we can put there that can hold it down for us and make the plays.
Kerrick, you just went through some of your infield. I presume Hernandez might catch for you, maybe Brock Daniels at first. You got a lot of outfielders who played between Seals and Benson. Curtis Frost have both played for you. How do you sort out the rest of your lineup?
It's one of those deals where what we have talked to our guys about coming into the fall and into the season is, it's first and foremost about who can be consistent, right? And don't get worried about the production aspect of it. But we also know that once you get to the season, there is a production aspect of it that exists. But you can't control the production. You can only control the process and whether or not you're consistent with the process. And then based on that, that's going to give you the best opportunity to be in the lineup on a daily basis. So, you know, when you look at our lineup this year, we're heavy. We have a lot of left-handed options. And so that gives us some wiggle room, if you will, to move in different lefties in the lineup based on how well they're doing and how they fit and how they're producing. And then we do have some right-handed options that we can, if we get some tough left-handed matchups, that we can put some right-handed bats in there. So for me, it's about who can go out, who can, you know, from an offensive perspective, have a plan, stick to your plan, trust your process, be consistent with your process, and then let the production of it do what it's going to do, as opposed to these guys getting uber focused on, I got to get a hit. Well, man, you can't control that. Like, you know, if you're chasing hits, you're chasing the wrong thing. So
from a pitching point of view, do you have a nice mix of guys with experience that come back to you and then a lot of newcomers? How do you feel about your weekend rotation and your bullpen at this point?
So it's like you said, on the pitching side of it, we have guys that have experience, but in age and not necessarily a ton of experience on the field. Like, so look at a Brock Lucas, right? He's a junior. He was one of our better guys out of the pen last year. Well, we're going to look to start him. He hasn't had a lot of starting experience. So that role for him is going to be new and different. And, you know, Dane Whistler, who did start but didn't really get extended in those starts. And so then, like you talk about some of the young guys, I mean, we have some young guys that have really good stuff, but they don't have the experience of being in the games in the league. So it's one of those situations where, like you said, we do have guys that are returning to us that have SEC experience, but they don't have SEC experience in the roles that they're potentially going to hold for us this year.
Coach, one transfer that caught my eye for you guys was Caden Nicoletto from Columbia College. His numbers from last season at that level were nuts. I mean, 412 average, on-base percentage up above 450, 27 home runs. How has he adjusted throughout the fall and leading up to the season with hitting in the SEC compared to the level he came from?
Early in the fall, it was a struggle for him, right? Like, it was, I mean, he was letting it eat every time that he stepped in the box, which is good, right? I mean, that's why you hit, 20-something home runs. But it's now understanding that, hey, with video access and scouting reports and all that, they're going to know what you can't do, and they're going to expose it. How are you going to make adjustments and be more consistent with your approach and taking advantage of mistakes that you're going to get? And so as we progressed from the fall to the early spring, he's really shown the ability to do that. And he's also a guy that's 88 to 90 off a bump with a good slider. He had Tommy John, and before Tommy John, his high school coach and travel ball coach from Perth, he and I played college baseball together, and he sent me videos. And before Tommy John, Caden was 93 to 95 from the left side. He didn't pitch a lot at Columbia College because Munns said, "Hey man, this dude is too valuable for me in the box for me to roll him out there on the mound and risk him getting injured for whatever reason." So he only pitched a little bit there, but we're starting to incorporate him into that because it's a left-handed arm that specifically, if we can get him back up to speed and he gets that velo back up there, then you kind of benefit from having a guy that can do that.
Kerrick, I want to talk to you about your potential starting rotation. We touched on a few arms, but you've got some returnees, Pimental, Lohse, Neubeck, who sat out last year, who have pitched some good baseball for Missouri, although maybe not in longer roles, maybe shorter bursts. How do you structure your starting pitching, and maybe how much are you expecting these guys to get into games? And who are the guys you think start for you the first weekend?
For sure. Well, Javyn's out. He had Tommy John, so he will not be pitching for us this year. So when you look at those other guys, for me, we look to piggyback our guys. And our starting pitchers, they go out there with the understanding, especially early in the year, I'm giving you 18 hitters. We're not talking about innings. We're not talking about any of those things. And we're kind of looking at it from the standpoint of, this is a big math problem, right? How do we get 27 outs in the least amount of plate appearances and score more runs before the other team gets 27 outs in the least amount of more plate appearances and score more runs? So challenging our guys, don't worry about, I got to go 7 innings. No, you got to get outs. and I'm going to give you 18 hitters. And if you want to be really, really good, average 14 to 16 outs in 18 batters that you face. If you're going to be less than that and it's 10 to 12, well, then you're not getting us very far. And then now when you talk about how that equals up to innings, so that means you're getting 3 in the third, maybe you're getting through 4 innings and facing 18 hitters. And so we look to piggyback our guys and set them up. And, hey, Brock Lucas, you get 18 hitters. And if we're backing him up with Ian Lohse, then Ian Lohse knows hitter 19, you're in the game. And your challenge is, if Brock got us 14 outs, well, can you go get us 13? And if you can't get us 13, can you get us 9? And if you get us 9, then what does the rest of the game look like to be able to match that up to get us to that 27? And so as we're looking at it, what it does for us is, when you look at our pitchers last year, we did the same thing last year, and we didn't have too many guys that went over 80 some odd, maybe 90 pitches a couple times throughout the course of the year. So it keeps them fresh. It incentivizes them. If you want to face more than 18 hitters, then be more productive in getting outs. But more importantly, now once we get to the end of the year, and specifically now with the new format, everybody's going into the postseason. Well, now if you've gone and you've been on that 80, 90 pitch count range, if you will, once you get to the end of the year, now we can take the reins off and say, hey, go. If you've proven to be effective, we know you're not going to be fatigued. And then the other piece of that for me is, when you look at it, you look at last year's numbers. I believe that the average start in the SEC last year was 4 1/3 innings. And guys faced 19.2 hitters on average. So why would we try to beat the averages, right? The day of the Friday night guy and you handing him the ball and you see him in the 8th, that doesn't exist anymore for a number of reasons, right? For the fact that agents are getting involved and, hey, you got to watch your pitch count. Oh, hold on. You're in college, right? But that stuff is happening more. But probably more on the other side of it is the hitting coaches in this league, our ability to develop scouting reports with all the video and stuff. You're going to figure that guy out, and so he's not going to have success going through the order 3 times. And so instead of us trying to, again, beat the averages, let's understand where we are and then challenge these guys. I need you to get outs. Don't worry about how many innings you throw. Don't worry about how many pitches you throw. Maximize the number of outs you get in the batters that you face. And so that gives it some finality.
Kerrick, I've got a follow-up there. A lot of emphasis when we have these arm injuries and things get placed on, oh, this guy did this in college, or, his MLB team threw him too much. Do you guys get a bad rap? And I don't mean you in particular, but like your industry, it seems like you're put in a tough spot, because I feel like the seeds to these pitching injuries and things that happen are planted long before they get to your campus. How do you manage all that?
I think you're right. It does. I think the crux of it more than anything else is chasing velocity.
Yep.
Right. The idea of pitching is completely lost. Yep. It's almost like we don't even talk about it anymore. We talk about spin rates and, IVB and horizontal movement. And again, I think those are all things because we have the tools that are necessary to have those discussions and then use those tools to define better who we are as pitchers. Right. When I was scouting, I didn't know what it was. I just knew when this dude threw his fastball up here, nobody hit it. Right. So keep doing that. Right. But as pitching coaches, we always taught guys pitch at the bottom of the zone. Mm-hmm. When some guys just got hit, and now we know why those guys got hit. So I think we use the information to determine who guys are, as opposed to trying to craft guys to be something that they're not. And so when you talk about the arm injuries and these types of things, because these kids are chasing velo, because these dudes are chasing spin rates and all these things, and we're not talking about just the simple art of pitching. Can you throw the fastball where the fastball needs to be thrown, when it needs to be thrown there? Yeah. Can you throw the breaking ball in a 2-0 count? Do you even have a changeup anymore? Right. And so that's what we're talking to our guys from a recruiting standpoint. You find me a guy that can throw a changeup for strike, sign him. Because if you can find me any hitting coach in the country that can tell his hitters how to hit a guy with a good changeup, I'd love to meet him.
Yeah. It still feels like a problem that's tough to solve, because like guys are not going to pitch at your level unless they've got overwhelming stuff. They're not going to get that stuff unless they throw hard and throw a lot. But the side effect with that comes by injury. So I'm just curious, like, how do you ever break that cycle and get back to like the baseball that a lot of us grew up with?
Well, again, we are the, for lack of a better way of saying it, we're the Oakland A's of the SEC, right? We got to do things here a little bit differently because we don't have the biggest budget, we don't have the best weather, we don't have the best facilities and stadium and all that kind of stuff. So how do we go about it? Well, we need to find the guy that in high school he's 88 to 90 and it's loose and he can throw strikes and he can spin the breaking ball, he can throw the change. Classic example of that is Tanner Houck.
Yeah.
Right. When I offered Tanner Houck was 84 to 86 miles an hour, threw the slider for a strike, threw the changeup for a strike, long, skinny kid with big feet. And me and Hobbs had the conversation. He's like, man, this dude can't pitch in the SEC. I said, he may not be able to, but we know he throws strikes. We know it's a long, projectable frame. So let's just say, I said, Hobbs, worst case, he shows up to campus and he's 88 to 90 when he gets to campus. And then because of the weight room, he gets to 90 to 92 by the time he's a junior, and he has that pitchability. I don't care where you're at. If you can pitch, you're going to win. If you can't pitch, then you're going to have success by stuffing guys, but the guys that are disciplined, they're going to lay off that because when you get to the big leagues, you're not stuffing guys. They're going to wait for you to make the mistake. We know that the average miss for big leaguers is 11 inches. Well, those guys aren't going to miss. They're not going to miss. And so you're seeing the SEC hitters, the same deal, that even though we get some guys that have really, really good stuff, if they can't pitch, they're going to make a mistake, and these hitters are going to be ready for that. So we're really trying to emphasize the idea of finding these guys that have some pitchability that then while you're here through strength and conditioning, through natural maturation, you come in as a 90 to 92 guy, and then over time, now all of a sudden you leave here 93 to 95, but you can pitch at 93 to 95.
Well, speaking of a pitching coach, you have a really good one, and Tim Jamison, who won a whole bunch of games as the head coach at Missouri, knows a thing about a first-round talent pitching-wise. What's it like having him on staff year two for you?
It's awesome, right? Because when I was here as an assistant, I worked for him. And so to be able to bring him back and tackle this beast with me, I know he's loving it because he didn't have to make any decisions anymore. They all follow me now, so he can sit back and say, "Hey, go with it." But we have a really great combination in Coach Jamison, who's been doing it for 30 plus years and had the experience that he has. And then we have our director of pitching development. His name is Isaiah Page. That dude dives into the data. He's pitched at Michigan, pitched in the World Series, was a coach in the Orioles organization. Really bright, young pitching mind. So the two of them together make a great combination for our guys because Isaiah can dive into the data and he can talk about pitch design with guys and get them to understand who they are and who they need to be and how to go about that. And then it's a great opportunity for him to learn from Coach Jamison on, hey, this is how you pitch, right? Like all this other stuff is great, but this is how you pitch. And so, it's a perfect combination. I couldn't ask for it to be in a better situation. Not to mention, take aside how good of a pitching coach Coach Jamison is, to have somebody at my side who's been doing this thing for 40 years as a coach, as a head coach, I couldn't ask for anything better. And that's part of the reason why he's here with me is, hey, if I'm going left and I should be going right, then you can pull me aside and, hey, you know what, man, you got on those guys a little bit. You might want to walk that back, or, hey, you need to get on those guys a little bit more because you're letting them off the hook. Because again, that guy, he's always seen the game with a 180-degree view. And so he's going to see things or be aware of things that I may not be aware of. And so it's a great combination from that as well.
Kind of a two-parter for you, Coach, on scheduling. I'll get to the SEC in a sec. But first, you guys start the year in Puerto Rico. Kind of unique in everything. I'm sure your players are going to enjoy being there, to start the season. It's probably not like the Missouri weather right now when you guys will be down there. On top of that, you play some good teams there. I mean, UConn was an NCAA tournament team. Stetson's a good mid-major. You play them there along with Penn State, the first game of the year you guys have. Talk about that, being down there for that. And then the second part of the question, you're in SEC play. You guys travel to some tough places. Everywhere is tough, but that's what stood out for me about your SEC schedule was going to LSU to start SEC play, going to Baum Walker, going to Gainesville. going to Alabama, even Texas A&M. Talk about the road mentality for you guys. So Puerto Rico and then road mentality and SEC play is what I got for you.
Yeah, I think when you look at the Puerto Rico trip, as you talked about, you look at those first 3 games, but then extended out to that game on Wednesday against UCF. So in our first 4 games, we're playing against 3 regional opponents, right? That had postseason play. So it's going to be tough. And then when you look at Coach Gambino and Penn State, I mean, that dude gets after it, right? Northeast mentality. His kids are going to play the game hard. They're going to bring it to you. I know he was active in the portal and being able to bring some guys in. So that first weekend for us is going to be a very challenging weekend right off the bat. And I think because it's 1 game situations, right, as opposed to a 3-game set, you're going to get everybody's best punch in that 1 game scenario. And so that, I think that will prepare our guys really, really well to kind of progress through our season and even get you a little bit more prepared for that SEC grind. And then, like you said, when you talk about the places that we're going to go in conference, it's funny because I told the guys in the office, I said, listen, our advantage is that we are the farthest team north. Give me a home game opening conference weekend. Like, let me bring somebody up here and get them playing up here. But yeah, I mean, the atmospheres of LSU and A&M and Arkansas, those are probably some of your more intimidating atmospheres that are out there. And so to get our guys to understand, again, we really, really talk about the idea of the beauty of the game of baseball is we're playing a game against the game itself. That if you don't allow the other things, the environment to affect how you go about your business, and think about it in its simplest form, the other team or the environment should not impact our ability to throw strikes. They should not impact our ability to play defense. They should not impact our ability to have quality at bats and play the game hard and smart. Those are things that we can control. We can't control anything outside of that. So take the things that we can control and control them at a high level, then we're going to put ourselves in a position where we can go anywhere and be competitive with anyone and have a chance to win games that we're playing.
Kerrick, tell me a bit about Pierre Seals, your transfer from Memphis. Looked like he had a very exciting year last year, 10 home runs, 16 steals, high on base guy. What does he look like for you this year?
It's the irony of that is Pierre committed to me when I was at Memphis. And so then, obviously he goes, he sticks there and plays for the staff last year and had that opportunity to obviously get in the portal and come here. And I mean, you can't ask for a better person. I mean, 80 grade makeup, goes about his business the right way. Very, very toolsy player. It's 60 raw power, right? Like he can go backside as well as he can go pull side and do it with ease. There's no extra effort in the swing, those types of things. He's going to see, I think when you look at the front line pitching that you would see in the AAC, he's going to see similar to that here. It's just going to be a little bit more depth, right? You're playing ECU. ECU's running dudes out, right? Yeah. Tulane's got everybody in the AAC has some dudes on that front end and they have a dude in the back end. And the difference now is just going to be in the SEC, there's going to be more of that across the board. But from a leadership standpoint and how he goes about his business, we've been able to make some adjustments with him from his approach at the plate. There was some swing and miss there for him last year, so we were looking at some video and do some different things. And so I think he's got a chance to be a guy that can come in here and hit more than 10. And then obviously, he epitomizes what we want our offense to be, right? You have that combination of speed and power. And as we move forward, that's what we're looking to do is have athletic dudes that can run, that have the ability to hit the ball out of the yard, drive the gaps. But if we need to play small ball, we can do all those different things. And as you guys well know, in this league, you better have more than one way to be able to score runs. Because if you're limited and they shut that down, it's a long day for you. But if you have other options and other things you can do, then you always put yourself in a position where you can be in a ball game.
Coach, I'm curious. You have been around this game in different points of views. You've been a coach at different levels, assistant coach, head coach. You've been a scout. You've also been an agent for Scott Boras. What was that like? How was that experience?
You know what? It was It was a great experience. One, just to be around him. One of my first clients with the Boris Court was Kerrick Jackson. And so, but just to be with Scott and be in that and listen to the knowledge base and how he evaluates players and understanding the industry, that's the one thing is I've been very, very blessed to do everything at this point, to do everything there is to do in the game, right? I was a Midwest area scouting supervisor. Obviously, I've coached, spent the time with the Boris Corp as an agent, and then was the president of the MLB Draft League. So I've been able to sit on all sides of this thing and have a really, really good holistic view of the smallest and lowest of amateur levels to the highest of professional levels. And so it gives me a great perspective. But again, just that dude's knowledge base, I remember the first time that I went up to go see Scooble at Seattle, and then they were coming down and playing at Irvine. And so, with our offices there in Newport Beach, it was right there. So we go to the game. Scott watched 2 pitches and he said, "This dude's a big leaguer." And he, talked about the fastball, and he said, guys they're not going to hit his fastball. They can't see it. He pitches he's going to be successful. And again, as the great prognosticator, there's no more success than winning the Cy Young, right? So yeah, just that experience and being able to have that different understanding of, I've been in the draft room on the pro side as a scout with an organization, and now being in the draft room on the Boris Corp side and hearing how those conversations and the phone calls and all those kind of things. So it was an outstanding experience for me, and just really, like I said, really increased the knowledge base. And all that I'm able to give to our guys, right? Some of our guys, which you guys know, it's rare that kids don't have advisors. These days they get advisors in kindergarten. But being able to talk to some of our guys that don't have them, and I'm like, hey man, no, you don't need one. I'll help you out, and it's not going to cost you anything. But more importantly, I'll give you my 10-minute spiel on why I think you should come back to school. And then once I give you that, I'm out. Like, I don't have to say anything else. And then I'll just help you navigate these waters and put you in a position to help you and your families make the best decision. So that experience helped me be able to assist our guys, which I'm forever grateful for.
Kerrick, I'm going to give you a blank slate here to paint on your way out. Give me some players that we haven't talked about that deserve some love, any storylines with your program we didn't get to, anything that you think is worthy of being talked about regarding Missouri baseball or the league or whatever. This space is yours to use as you please here.
For sure. No, I appreciate you guys reaching out and having me on. It means a lot. I think Mateo Serna is a guy. He's a sophomore switch hitter from Miami. I think this dude has a chance to be a guy. It's power from both sides of the plate. Came in as a catcher. He'll probably play first base. Has the ability to potentially play third base if we shift some things around. But as he continues to grow and develop, I think he's going to be a true force in the league. Caden Pierre is maturing. He was able to, one of the things, again, you guys watched us. We probably played more freshmen than anybody else in our league last year. I think we had 5 guys that had over 90 at bats. And Caden Pierre benefited from that experience. So he's done really, really well. Jarrett Curtis, he's kind of, you're talking about a 5-tool guy who played sparingly for us last year, but he's got a chance and he's made some strides. So I'm really excited about this club. I think we're going to take our lumps. As I've told multiple people this past couple of weeks, we're going to find out about our club using one of Mike Tyson's famous quotes, right? Everybody's got plans to get hit in the mouth. And so once we get hit in the mouth, I think that will tell you who we are as a group and how we respond to that will tell. But I think, again, at the end of the day, the experience that our guys went through last year and saw how close we were to being able to be in a position where we could have been in the postseason. We could have been in the regional. They took 11 teams and, look at those 14 losses. If we win the right 7 of those, we go from 13th place to 8th place in the league. And so I think they realize where they can make the change and the difference. And I think you're going to see an inspired group come out this year and be ready to get after it.
Kerrick, thank you so much for joining us today. Wish you and the Tigers the best of luck on your season.
Appreciate you guys having me on. MIZ.